Good evening, Westborough community, and welcome to everyone who is joining us today for this special live performance from the back porch of the Fung household in Westborough, Massachusetts. My name is Judy Garrett, and I have had the pleasure of teaching in our Westborough Orchestra program for the last 20 years. I'm delighted to have the opportunity to introduce our wonderful gifted performers in our very first Westborough Concert Hour event. Our extraordinary cellist, 21-year-old Zlatomir Fung, is recognized today internationally as one of the greatest cellists of his generation. During his relatively short career, he has performed extensively in world-class solo and chamber music settings, and during the last several years has won first prize in several prominent international string competitions. Most recently, last June, he won first prize in cello in the renowned International Tchaikovsky competition in Russia, bringing home a gold medal in cello for the United States for the first time in 30 years. We are very proud to say that we had the good fortune of having Fung participating in our very own Mill Pond Orchestra program for 3 years, just over a decade ago. One of the highlights for me of this time was conducting a performance of his original composition for solo cello and fifth grade orchestra. I remember speaking to the audience after the concert saying, "One day you will remember that you first heard Zlatomir here." As string teachers in Westborough, we all knew he was headed for something extraordinary and have been delighted to follow his career over the years. Fung is currently completing his third year of study at the Juilliard School in New York City and is now sheltering with his parents Maria and Francis Fung and his musically talented siblings Kaya and Plamen in Westborough. We are so fortunate that another fabulous musician, Taiwanese violinist I-Jung Huang, who Zlatomir met at the Juilliard School, is also currently sheltering in the Fung household. In her career, she has performed widely across Europe, the United States, China, and Taiwan, and has won awards both in Taiwan and at Juilliard. We are so happy that she will also be performing in tonight's program. Zlatomir was very excited about the idea of performing this concert, especially for our very own Westborough string students. In addition to performing, he'll be responding to some student questions which we've collected for him over the last couple of weeks. We are so very proud of our string players in Westborough, with over 700 students participating in our grade 3 through 12 orchestra program. Our district supports 4 string teachers, myself and my fabulous colleagues, Valerie Clemens, Teresa Cleary, and Kristen Chartier, who have all participated in organizing this event. We hope you, and especially our Westborough string players, and everyone else who is with us tonight, will enjoy this very special Westborough Concert Hour event. Enjoy.
you so much for tuning in, and a special warm greeting to the Westborough, Massachusetts community. My name is Zlatomir Fung. I am 21 years old and I'm a cellist. I currently study at the Juilliard School in New York City, but I actually grew up in Westborough, Massachusetts, and I'm coming to you now from the living room of my family's home here. I'm very excited to present to you a program of cello music, and then later on in the hour, some violin and cello duos. The piece that you just heard was the March from the Music for Children by Sergei Prokofiev, arranged for solo cello by Gregor Piatigorsky. And I'd like to say a special warm welcome to all of the Westborough Schools students who are tuning in tonight, those who are part of the strings or band program. Special thanks to you all for tuning in, and I really hope you enjoy this little mini concert. The next pieces I will play are three movements from the Suite No. 1 for solo cello by Johann Sebastian Bach. You might know these pieces already, even without knowing it. The prelude to the first suite by Bach is one of the most famous pieces ever written for cello. And in fact, if you type in on the internet, on Google or YouTube, that famous cello song, this is the piece that will come up. The prelude. I will also be playing the Saraband, which is the fourth movement of the suite, and is perhaps the slowest, most reflective movement of all six. And then the final movement, the jig, which shares a lineage with the jig, which, as many of you may know, is a very lively dance in 6/8 time. So I hope you enjoy these three movements from Bach's Suite No. 1, the Prelude, Saraband, and Jig. Thank you. Thank you so much. So, in between playing tonight, I'm very happy that I've actually been sent a list of questions that were submitted beforehand by students from the Westborough schools. And I'm going to answer some of them here, read them aloud and answer some of them here between each piece. So the first question comes from Zachary and Emma, who are both in 4th grade, and they ask, how do you play so fast? Well, I'm very flattered by that question. I would say that the key to playing quickly is to practice slowly. And that's because every motion that we do, particularly with our fingers, where the muscles are very small, requires a certain amount of repetition. But the repetition needs to be done in a way where each motion is very conscientious, and thought out. And when you practice something too quickly at first, a lot of bad habits will creep in, which will prevent you from playing accurately. So if you practice accurately when it's slow, and then you gradually make it faster in your practice, eventually you'll be able to play things very fast and very well. The second question comes from a 5th grader, Aishani. And they ask, how do you memorize 8-minute long pieces when I can't even memorize Old Joe Clark? What methods do you use? Well, thank you so much, Aishani, for that funny question. I would say that the key to memorization is also, in a way, repetition. If you think about some of the things that you do as habits in your daily life, like, for example, when you brush your teeth or wash your hands, many of those things have quite complex elements. They have routines, like when you wash your hands, you first have to walk through the doorway into the bathroom and then stand still and then turn on the faucet. And there are many different steps that you have to take, but when you do it, you're not thinking about all those steps because you've done it so many times before. And for me, playing a piece of music from memory is similar to that, in the sense that if I've done it enough times, then it feels natural to me that I have the steps down and I don't need to worry about what's coming next. So I would say for Old Joe Clark, just hang in there and absolutely one day you'll get it. All right, I'm going to play now 2 very short preludes by the 20th century Polish composer Mieczysław Weinberg. These 2 preludes come from a collection that he wrote of 24 preludes for solo cello. It's quite a lot. And I'll be playing numbers 3 and 7. The reason I find these preludes interesting is because they use unusual techniques on the cello. Like, for example, the first prelude that I'll play, number 3, calls for the cellist to use the wood of the bow to hit the string, like this. This is a special technique called colegno. I would not recommend for you young string players out there to experiment too much with it unless it's explicitly in the music, but it does exist as an extended technique. And the second prelude I'll play, number 7. The way I like to think about it is it's sort of a depiction of a moth or a butterfly. It's fluttering very quickly and very softly. But every once in a while the moth or butterfly comes a little bit too close to a flame. So here are preludes numbers 3 and 7 by Weinberg. Thank you. So next I'm going to invite I-Jung Huang, who is currently quarantining with my family, and we're going to play a duo. But while she's coming to get set up, I'm going to read a few more questions. Also, there will be some behind-the-scenes camera work to make sure to fit both of us in the frame, so just thanks for your patience. We have a question from Andrew in the 6th grade and Vignesh in 11th grade, and they both ask, how do you practice effectively to get better? This is a question that I think many people grapple with, and I'm certainly no exception. I think the key is to always be searching for new ways to practice, new ways to increase your efficiency. But I would say that the biggest mistake that I see people make in their practice is that they don't think enough to identify the problems that are in their playing. So they'll be practicing, but they won't actually realize what needs work. And that's what's so valuable about having a teacher, is that they can tell you what you should work on. But most of your improvement actually has to come in the practice room, and therefore you have to be your own teacher, and you have to sort of be your own critic. And acknowledging and identifying the problem spots in your playing, I think, is the first and most important step in practicing effectively. Let's see. So we have another question from Shreya in the 7th grade. The question is, how do you never give up? That's a very touching question. I would say that I think we all, when we devote ourselves to something, we all have thoughts of giving up at some point. I don't know if you would agree, but it's tough, to stick with something, and often there are obstacles in our practice, and it's tough to find the motivation to continue when you really feel stuck. I would say the most helpful thing for me has been just to remember that each day is a new day, and each day you have another chance to better yourself and improve. So if things aren't quite going your way right now, don't give up. Just, wait until the sun comes up again and give it another shot and go for it. All right, so I-Jung, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, my name is I-Jung. I'm from Taiwan and currently quarantined with Zlatomir's family. Very, very happy to be here. Hope everyone's well.
So this next piece is a duo for violin and cello that actually I wrote when I was 13 years old. And it's called Bulgarian Fragments. For those of you who don't know, I'm actually half Bulgarian. My mother was born in Bulgaria and came to the United States 30 years ago. And so at the time when I was writing this piece, I was very interested in traditional Bulgarian folk music. And I had a CD that I was listening to, and I decided that I would try to transcribe some of the tunes on the CD by ear into a piece for cello and violin. So this is Bulgarian Fragments divided into 6 short movements. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you. much, Iron.
Thank you.
Actually, I was wondering if you could stay here for a second and just
Yeah.
just talk a little bit, because I have a problem with my allergies. I'll just go get a tissue.
Okay.
Sorry, everyone.
Wow. This wasn't in the script. I just want to thank everybody who was tuning in. It's currently 7:34 p.m., but 7:34 a.m. in Taiwan. So I just want to say hi to my family in Taiwan, if anybody's watching from Taiwan. Yeah, I could hear he was having an allergy event going on. So, but I think that's part of being a performer, that no matter what happens on stage, one of the things that we are trying to do, not just like mentally we're a little stressed on stage, but also any moment anything could go wrong. So I think that's something that being a musician we really learn from experience, knowing how to handle any sort of situation like this. You feeling a little better? I was just talking
I'm
about
sorry, everyone.
how
Thank you.
everyone, being a musician going on stage, had to manage all sorts of circumstances.
Yeah.
So you feeling okay?
It's actually not the first time this has happened to me. Actually, a concert I gave maybe 5 years ago, something even worse happened, where I was playing a slow movement and a piece of dust got in my eye, so I was basically weeping for 4 minutes straight until I could rub my eye after I finished playing. But you know, these things happen, so thanks for bearing with us. I'm going to answer a few more questions before we move on to the next piece. Many students actually asked how many hours a day or a week do you put into practicing? Well, I would say that on an average day I try to practice 3 to 4 hours, usually not more than that. But I try not to practice too much less than that either. But I think how much you practice depends on a few factors. It depends on how busy you are, of course, what your other activities are, how much music you're working on, and how serious you are about improving. But I was practicing about an hour and a half a day until I was 13. And then when I was 13, I started practicing more like 3 hours a day, and I've sort of still maintained that. So thank you for that question. Let's see. Monish from 7th grade asked, do you watch Two Set Violin? That's a great question. I do, actually. They're hilarious, and I've never actually met them, but we have some mutual friends, and I'm a huge fan of their videos. It's wonderful what they're doing for classical music. They're so funny. If any of you haven't seen them yet, you can see them on Facebook or YouTube, and their videos are just hilarious. And last question I'll answer for now is Chung Wei from the 8th grade and Kendra from the 7th grade both asked, how old was I when I decided to become a professional cellist, or when did I know that I wanted to make a career out of playing cello? I started playing the cello when I was 3 years old, actually, and I decided when I was about 12 or 13 that I wanted to pursue music as a career. And actually, I was actually going to the Mill Pond School down the road, and I played in the orchestra first as a cellist, but then I was actually there as a violist too. But I haven't played viola since then. But I have warm memories of my 6th grade orchestra. It was great. But I decided to become a professional when I was 13, 14, and I decided at that point to really devote myself to it. And it's been wonderful. And there's a lot of uncertainty now about the future of the music world. But I think if people love music, then it will always survive. And I certainly love music. So thank you. And so the next pieces I'll play, I'm very excited about sharing these two pieces with you. These are two movements from a piece called Unlocked by the British composer Judith Weir. I'll be playing two movements for you. This piece is divided into 5 movements, and I'll be playing the 3rd and the 4th movements. This piece is special because Judith Weir, the composer, actually went to the Library of Congress and was studying traditional folk songs sung by prisoners in the American South. So these are in some ways very simple tunes, but she transforms them in a very, very profound and intricate and moving way for the cello. The first movement I'll be playing, the third movement of the piece, is called The Wind Blows East. And the theme represents a prisoner's dream of a better life, of escaping prison. And the other movement I'll play is called The Keys to the Prison. And that has a similar theme. It's also sung by a prisoner who is it's a mother and her daughter, and the daughter says, "Mom, I have the keys to the prison so we can escape." And the mom says to her, "Well, how is that possible when I see the guard there and the keys are hanging on his belt?" And in this piece you can hear the key represented by the very fast spiccato stroke like this. And that's kind of the key jingling. So I hope you enjoyed these two very meaningful movements. Thank you. Thank you. Here we have maybe one or two more questions. Cynthia from the 11th grade asks, how do you get rid of nerves during a performance? It's something that I'm trying to work on. I would say that the best remedy for nerves is experience, because unfortunately the nerves will never really go away, but your ability to coexist with them will. And I think that's an important realization that I came to the past couple of years. I think that the goal is to use that energy, that nervous energy, and channel it into positive energy that then you can share with the audience through your performance. All right, well, thank you to all of the students who submitted questions, and apologies that we could not answer all of them, but we really appreciate it, and thank you for tuning in. To finish the program, we're going to play a fan favorite. I-Jung and I are going to play a fan favorite. This is the Passacaglia by Handel-Halvorsen. A Passacaglia is a type of musical form where you have an underlying harmonic structure or theme, and then basically a set of variations on that theme. And this arrangement really makes use of the capabilities of the different instruments, and wouldn't you say it's quite virtuosic and a bit difficult for the violin, right?
Yeah.
I'd like to, before we play, I'd just like to give a big thanks to I-Jung for playing with me in this concert, and thank you so much to Judy Garrett, who gave this wonderful introduction at the beginning, and everyone at the Westborough Schools, Westborough Public Schools, for supporting this live stream concert. And finally, I'd like to thank my younger brother, Zlatomir Fung, who has been working behind the scenes to make this live stream possible, and we wouldn't be able to do it without him. He's also been manning the camera and so forth. So thank you, Zlatomir. Big round of applause. Thank you all for tuning in, and see you next time. This is the Passacaglia by Handel-Halvorsen.